James Buddy Rogers here, and in this lesson we're going to get into making some noise on the guitar, and we're going to learn how to tune the guitar. That is one of the most important things that you need to do, is have a guitar that's in tune. And there's two ways to tune a guitar. One is by ear, and the other one is with a tuner, such as this. Tuners are relatively simple instruments. Let me just turn this off here. So you take it out, like for instance this one, I plug it in, turn it on. So I hit an E, and you can see that I'm a little bit sharp. And I always like, one thing I always like to tell people is when you tune from under the note. So for instance, like it's flat right now, and then tune up until it's in tune. If you're sharp, don't tune down to the note. Don't tune down to the note like that. Always go flat and then tighten it, right? Because when it's sharp, and if you're sharp, you're loosening the string to there. If you're sharp, go flat and then tighten it back up to go in tune. And if you're watching this, it's probably reverse of what I'm doing. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're doing a tuner. So I'm a little bit sharp, so I'll go flat, and then I'll do it. It's a little hard holding this and doing it, but whatever. Yeah, so that kind of goes. So another way to do it too, when you're dealing with harmonics as well, if you go to your 12th fret, and you can get the harmonic, which, you know, the distance here is the distance here, so you're going to be in tune, right? So if you find that you're tuning this, and then when you hit your open string it's out of tune, then you got some intonation problems, and there's other things going on that we're not going to get into right now. But ultimately you can do that. So, you know, a tuner's a pretty straightforward instrument. You plug it in, and it's going to tell you, you know, relatively quickly whether you're flat or sharp. A good practice to do, which I'm victim of often, you know, because when I'm playing in clubs I use a tuner because it's usually way too loud to figure out tuning by ear, you know, is, so you have your E string and your A, for instance. So let's show you this here. So you got your E string and your A string. So that's your A. So you've got E, F, G, A, right? So we won't worry too much on the notes right now if this is confusing you. Just know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th fret over. So the 5th fret, those strings should sound the same. And then 5th fret again, you know, and same thing as you work your way down. The one difference is when we get to the G string, the 3rd one from the bottom, it's tuned differently. And then it's back to the 5th. A little flat. Right? So you got 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th, 5th, and then 4th, 5th. And then you're tuning your guitar. There are some more advanced ways, which typically I don't, like my ears have learned to, like I'm actually tuning, I actually tune, like, here, let me do this here. Yeah, so I actually tune. My ears have just grown accustomed to knowing the like chord sound of those two notes as opposed to, right? So those are a couple ways. Harmonics. So if you do your, like, I guess it would be, yeah, so it is the 5th fret. right there. So you don't touch the string. Let me see if you can see this. Might be a little hard to see here. So if you go, see if I can line that up there for you. So you don't push the string down. You just sit your finger and just almost mute it, and when you hit it, you get a harmonic. And then those two are the same. So on your open E string, you do a harmonica, or harmonic, sorry. And then on the A string, which would be your 7th fret, you do a harmonic, and it's the same note. So you've got, right? And then you can tune that way, and then you do the same thing on the A. And I often find that harmonics like that, those are easier, those vibrations are easier for me to hear than, I get it. I can hear it better, you know, when I do those harmonics. So again, to recap on this, so this is your 5th fret, open string, and then go down a string and put your finger down on it, and then open string on the one below it, right? So you do that for the top 3, and then the 4th string, you go over to the 4th fret. It's a little out, but you know, you get the point right there. So it might be a good exercise to put your guitar a little bit out of tune, or have someone do it so you don't know whether it went sharp or flat, because that can be tricky at times to know whether you're hearing sharp or hearing flat. And then try to tune it by ear as best you can, and then plug it into a tuner. See how close you were. Because if you can start to develop your ears at this foundation, that's great. So you know this way, and you may already know it now. And then the harmonics as well. If you can do I don't really do the harmonics when I get down, because it's, as you know, the G string's tuned a little bit differently than the other ones. I usually do it on the top 3. And then, and often I'll go and reach over and tune so I can hear them both, because if I'll demonstrate. You can kind of hear the waves kind of, you know, they're bouncing against each other, and then they kind of get in unison. Like that sound, we all know that sounds bad. You can kind of hear it settle in. You know, so that's a good way to do it too, right? You know, and again, as I've been mentioning throughout these lessons, whatever works for you, what your ears are used to. You know, that's how I like to tune. And you know, people would think I'm nuts teaching someone how to tune like this, because it's just something that makes sense to me, that I've kind of developed on my own. You know, so whatever works for you, those are just a few different tools, and maybe part of one works for you and part of the other works for the other strings. You know, the lower notes, maybe you hear those lower frequencies different than the next, so you prefer to use this technique for the low notes and this technique for the high notes. Whatever you do, you know, just use one of these to try and tune by ear. Don't always try and rely on a tuner, because sometimes you could be playing and realize, oh, my guitar's out of tune, and I'm jamming with somebody at a jam or around the campfire, and you need to tune on the fly. You might be able to, you know, find the root note of a song that happens to be an open string and, you know, quickly dial it in and realize you're a bit, you know, a bit flat or a bit sharp, and tune that up. So that's going to help train your ears. And that's something that I highly recommend you do. And in fact, if you want, show me what works for you. Take your cell phone and show me. Maybe there's something different than what I've shown here that you think I should have shown, or that you saw somebody else show. I would love to see it, and I hope that you guys fill things out in the comments and reach out to me and show me what you're doing. I'd love to see your progress along the way. And having said that, we're going to move on to the next lesson.